All right. Welcome back to Draws and Fades, episode 85, preview of the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines in San Diego, California. I'm your host, Owen Vrabel, joined by my co-host, Matthew Miller,
What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
and producer, Nick Boss.
What's going on, boys? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Devastating week for my football team this weekend as the Packers completely shit the bed. But we won't be talking too much football today. We'll give you a brief recap of the American Express. Underwhelming week for your boys, but we will get into that for a bit before we give you a course preview and some tournament history at the Farmers Insurance, which is played at Torrey Pines, which does have two courses, the North and South course. The South course will be played 3 times. The North course will be played once on Thursday or Friday, depending on your draw. So we have a full field event this week. We'll give you our strategy for outright bets, go through the odds list on FanDuel, give you our top of the board, mid-range and long shot thoughts, and I'll give you our picks of the week, as well as some thoughts on top 10s, top 20s, and first-round leaders. Please give us a follow on Twitter at Owen_Vrabel, at MattyMills85, and at Draws_N_Fades. And again, reminder, we are now with Rotoballer, so it gives those write-ups a look this week and give them a follow on Twitter. And you can check us out on YouTube as well at Draws and Fades. Underwhelming week, American Express. I'll say it was a little less heartbreaking for me personally because obviously Henley the week prior was absolutely brutal. Varner took care of any stress on an outright ticket by the 9th and 10th hole where he went bogey triple as soon as he sniffed the lead. He went from T1 to T22 in a little less than an hour. So, and then completely gagged away at top 20 by 3 putting on 16 and missing an 8-footer on 18. So finished 22nd, 1 stroke out of the top 20. Me and Matt both missed out on a plus 450 cash out there. So really only thing that positive happened was Andrew Putnam. Plus 490 top 20 did hit for me. So I guess I'll take that. But other than that, big swing and a miss. I mean, it's funny that we kind of mentioned it even on our show and on Brian Kirshner's show at Tap and Birdie that it is like a long shot crapshoot at that tournament. And it sucks to follow. Just absolutely no fun completely. And obviously the NFL just took over on the weekend. So,
yeah, I mean, the negative, like you said, Thursday through Saturday, if your guys were at the La Quinta course or Nicholas, like you couldn't follow anything. There's no shot track. It sucks. The positive was that none of our guys, at least for me, were in the mix. So I got to enjoy the full football Sunday. 2 awesome games. We won't get into Saturday's games, but
thank you.
Sunday, good slate of games. I will say I was watching for you in the beginning. I was like, wow, Varner, he got up to T1 after making the birdie on 8. I'm like, wow, Owen's got a chance. After, I was hoping he pulled it off for you. Then I saw he put one into the water. I didn't check back. Then to my absolute shock, I checked back at the end and saw I didn't even get a top 20 on him. I'm glad I wasn't following that.
Yeah, when you texted me that, I was like, yeah, you must not have been following along because it's been a disaster out there. And
ignorance is bliss. Sometimes that's the best way to do
it. Yeah. Oh my God. It's classic with Harold Varner. So I wasn't really shocked. And also, Hudson Swafford wins at 20. What do you finish at? 20 under? So 23 under actually. So he actually had an electric back 9 where he went birdie, eagle, birdie.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
So he played great, but Varner at that point was at 18, 19 under and then completely shit the bed. There were so many guys that had a chance, really. Ton of guys who have not proven to win on tour before. And then even Brian Harmon is stuck into the mix, Lanto Griffin, Francesco Molinari. Will Zalatoris actually played really well over the weekend. Denny McCarthy, classic. Anytime I don't bet him top 20, he comes inside the top 20.
Mm-hmm. A week late for both of us, I think. We both took him last week or 2 weeks ago.
And then Patrick Cantlay was great Thursday, Friday. Realistically, he actually was really only great on Thursday. He shot 10 under and kind of gave the impression that he was just going to win the event easily, and that did not happen whatsoever. But I guess it was exciting if you had Hudson Swafford. Other than that, it wasn't very exciting.
Seamus Power just shit the bed from the first tee.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, not many guys really performed. Like Siwoo Kim played well on Sunday. Sung Jae played well on Sunday for us out of nowhere, but didn't even. I mean, if he had done anything on Friday or Saturday, he had plenty of opportunities, and he would have been right in the mix on Sunday. But decided to save his best for last when he had absolutely no chance to win. So that sucked. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Move on.
I think we'd be remiss though if we didn't say it actually is a victory Monday for us, despite us not being what are they, DP World Tour now, not European Tour.
Yeah, DP World Tour.
Shout out Thomas Peters, took it home in Dubai for the boys. So
yeah, that's true. We did not tout that, but in our
didn't
circle,
tout it, but we'll still pat ourselves on the back for it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll throw those out there on Twitter before next event. But
he's
maybe we'll 31 on ourselves.
31 on the official World Golf Rankings, which means we're going to be seeing a lot more of him over here. And that's not good news because he's going to be on every one of my cards.
Yeah, people forget he's still pretty young too. I think he's like 29. So Thomas Peters, good for him. Yeah, now we will definitely see more of him on the PGA Tour, hopefully, which is exciting. He's awesome. He's awesome to watch. And also just another European personality that, I mean, not to the degree of Hatton, but pretty hilarious interviews with Peters you get. So.
Well, even speaking of Hatton's interview this week was he's just mid-season form already.
He wanted to blow up the 18th hole. That's those words.
That's a direct quote. Yeah. So. Good to see Hatton's hasn't skipped a beat there.
Yeah. So and hopefully we'll start seeing more of those guys as we roll in through the season here. But we are in the middle of the California swing. At Torrey Pines, Farmers Insurance Open. Torrey Pines, historic venue. We've been here since like the late 60s at Torrey Pines. There's definitely a discrepancy between the courses, Matt, in terms of, if you got to score well at the North course, it's significantly easier than the South course. But obviously we'll be on the South course for most of the weekend or all of the weekend, and you'll have one round either Thursday or Friday at the North course where you're going to have to play well. So I'll let you give a little preview of what we're working with at Torrey Pines this week, and then we'll go through the odds list.
Yeah, so we are in La Jolla, like you mentioned. Tournament runs Wednesday to Saturday for the first time ever.
Don't mix up.
Changed the dates to not collide with the conference championship games in the NFL. Based on last week, probably a good decision. The games are pretty good this year. So good move. We get some Wednesday golf. Should be fun. Like you said, there's a North and a South course. The North is much easier. You play either Thursday or Friday at the North, and then the other 3 days at the South. The North course is a par 72, 7,258 yards. Bent grass greens is about 500 yards shorter than the South course, which is par 72, 7,765 yards. It's the longest course we're going to see on the PGA Tour this season in the regular rotation. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Some past winners. Patrick Reed won last year at minus 14. Just to give you kind of an idea of how important it is to score at the North course, he shot minus 8 day one at the North course. He won by 4 shots. So all he had to do at the South course is shoot minus 2 over the next 3 days, and he would have won the event. So if you go low at the North, it really gives you an advantage because the South is tough. The year prior, Mark Leishman won at minus 15. Justin Rose won the year before that at minus 21, which seems kind of like a bit of an anomaly because that's very low. This is kind of a tougher scoring event. And Jason Day won the year before at minus 10. Things to kind of look for this week. I think driving distance will be important. 6 of the par 4s on the South are over 450 yards. So it's going to be advantageous to, be able to hit it further off the tee. Approach obviously is going to be important, specifically longer approach, 175 plus, 200 plus, in those ranges because you're going to have a lot of longer shots coming in. And then I think around the green is going to be important because you have small greens here, and obviously with a longer course too, they're tougher to hit. So there's going to be a lot of missed greens, and you have to go up and down. Last year when Patrick Reed won, he actually didn't hit. I think he missed, and I'm making this stat up, but I'm trying to remember it from last year, so it's not totally made up. I want to say he missed like 36 greens in regulation or something, which feels high, but he was scrambling his ass off all week. He was going up and down from all over the place. It was unbelievable. So there's a lot of different ways to win this event. I mean, he won by scrambling. Brent Snedeker's won. He's got a good short game as well. Then you have guys like John Rahm who, can bomb the ball and kind of pick the course apart that way. So there's a lot of different ways to win, but I think, driving distance will be important. Guys who play well on longer courses. So Patrick Reed, even though he's not the longest guy, he always plays well on longer courses. So that's kind of what I'm looking into this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at guys that are gaining strokes off the tee, longer hitters, guys who are elite with their long irons, like you said, 175 plus. And then there are the short game, wizards, so to speak, like Reed, like Snedeker, or guys who just putt extremely well on POA, which is what we'll be playing on the South Course. There is definitely, you need to be scoring on the par fives. Like you said, there haven't been too many low scores here. Obviously, Justin Rose was at 2 or 3 years ago, had an incredible week and shot 21 under. I think the conditions were a little easier that year. It's not going to be easy to make birdies. You're going to have to capitalize when you have those opportunities. But yeah, we've seen pretty much year in, year out that just looking at the odds list in general, guys in between 15 to 1 to 50 to 1 have been winning this event. We've had an outlier with Scott Stallings back in 2014, and then Tiger back in 2013. Is he went off at 7.5 to 1 and he won. So, but kind of throw out anything that Tiger Woods does is normal. So, I think you're looking for some of the elite players here, top of the board. Definitely don't be scared to put some bets in up there. And I think that there's something to guys that play well on longer courses and play well in tough fields. So we'll be seeing a ton of the best players in the world here this week. So there are plenty of options to choose from, and I'm excited to go through the odds list. So I guess we'll just get right into it on FanDuel. And we've seen some discrepancies already with the odds list so far. I mean, some numbers have been jumping around like crazy, but towards the top of the board, obviously John Rahm is going to be your outright favorite. I think he's on DraftKings currently. He is at 6.5 to 1, which is pretty insane, but nonetheless, he is a former champion here and he is the number one player in the world. So I guess you can't be expecting too much, but he is 7.5 on FanDuel. Then we have Justin Thomas at plus 1,300, Xander at plus 1,700, Bryson DeChambeau at plus 1,900, and then Berger, DJ, and Hideki at plus 2,100. So those are their top 7 guys on the odds list. I think we can go without saying that we will not be taking John Rahm at 7.5 to 1. Am I correct on that one?
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we say it basically every week with him, but obviously he can definitely win this tournament. So
yeah, I mean, he won the U.S. Open here last year. He's won the Farmers Insurance here before. He always plays well here. So yeah, I mean, you don't need to get into the reasons why he would be good. He obviously probably will be very good here, but
right,
7 to 1, no.
Yeah, no, and again, pretty much any week you want to use John Rahm for one and done might not be a bad move. This feels like a pretty good week to do it, but any week could be a good week to do it. You might want to wait for a major. And if you used him last week, you probably would have been pretty pissed because he did not finish as high as you would think. So anyway, John Rahm is back. Justin Thomas, we haven't seen in a little while. Did you have any thoughts on him or Xander this week?
No, I thought Justin Thomas's number was a little bit odd. He played well at the Tournament of Champions and like the Hero World Challenge, but they're both very small field events. I thought 13 was, a bit too low for him. I didn't give him much thought. I think you can get into trouble easily here. And Xander he's tricky. I mean, it's obviously his home course has been made very known. He played his high school golf here.
Yep.
But up until last year, he hasn't played very well here. And then he had really a backdoor second place at the Farmers Insurance Open here last year. He made the cut on the number, and then kind of had a really nice Sunday where he went low. He finished second, and he played well at the U.S. Open too. But I just can't take him with this number either, and he doesn't win enough to do that.
Yeah, no, I thought both of those numbers are too low, and yeah, Xander just hasn't been winning. I mean, so you're taking a guy at 17 to 1, thinking he's going to win at least 2 or 3 times in a given year, which is certainly possible, but not really my cup of tea this week. And same thing with JT. I'm so shocked that he is as low as he is on the odds list, considering, it's not like he's had great form here, especially at a 13 to 1 number. I mean, I'm not saying he's been horrible here by any means, but he's played the Farmers Insurance twice. He's missed a cut and finished 10th. And the U.S. Open, I guess he did finish inside the top 20, but nothing crazy. Both all three of those top guys I felt like were easy to skip by. And then I thought we'll get into the mid-20s as well, but you like anyone from 21 under, DJ, Bryson, or Hideki?
I am going to take Dustin Johnson this
All
week.
right.
21-1. We haven't seen him in a while, so obviously a bit of a risky pick, not necessarily risky, but you don't know what he's been up to.
Could be risky.
No current form going in. But the thing about DJ is obviously that's a very good number on one of the most talented players in the world. Obviously, John Rahm was playing incredible, but last year at the beginning of the year, it was kind of a sure thing that Dustin Johnson was the number one player in the world, and he was kind of the John Rahm, where he was going to be the favorite every week. He had a down year for sure, I think, by everybody's standards, but the way he closed it out was actually a lot better than the year as a whole. I mean, he was 10th at the WGC toward the end of the year. He finished 6th at the BMW in the second to last playoff event. And then really the last competitive event we saw him in, he absolutely dominated the Ryder Cup. He went 5-0. He was the best player out there by a wide margin. So by the end of the year, I mean, he looked like he was back to being one of the best players. Obviously, match play, a little different format, but you could tell, obviously, DJ, when he brings his A game, is still, one of the elites, if not the elite. So 21-1 in this field, I feel like I have to take it. Obviously, he's a very good fit. He plays well on tougher courses. He has the distance. When I think about kind of grinding out an event, he's that type of guy. So I think I'm definitely going to take a shot at him. I know he doesn't have the current form, but 21-1, it felt too good to pass up to me.
Yeah, I'm really, really conflicted on DJ this week. It seems like a number on DJ that you just take and don't think about it. But now that I've thought about it, I've pivoted. So I'm kind of mad. I'm going to be upset if he wins for sure, because I'm pivoting to Daniel Berger, who, I mean, he's essentially turned himself into the best iron player in the world. I mean, if you just look at his statistics over the last season, he's been phenomenal. He has not played particularly well here. He has 3 consecutive missed cuts. So why would I be taking him at 21-1? I mean, he's just been so elite, and I feel like this course actually should shape up well for him. He just, for whatever reason, hasn't played well here yet.
He played here. Didn't he play well at the U.S. Open? I think that he.
Oh, yeah, he did. Was it in 2020 or two?
I think it was here last year. I think.
Oh, no, it was last year. Yeah, he finished 7th last year, so he did play well at the U.S. Open. I'm expecting it to be, a little bit easier than that, so hopefully he can use some of the good vibes from last year at the U.S. Open and roll that into that, and that's probably why his number is where it is. But like I said, he's first to stroke gain approach over his last 24 rounds, over his last 36 rounds. Last time we saw him was at the Century Tournament Champions. He looked great. He lost almost 4 strokes putting and still finished 5th. 11th at the Tour Championship to end last season. And before that, he had strung together 3 top 10s at the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, and then a WGC. So obviously, Berger's kind of transformed his career a little bit here to be competing in these stronger fields. I think he had a little bit of an issue with that, a couple of years prior. But Berger 21-1 will be my first play of the week, and feeling pretty good about it. I mean, you got to be elite at some aspect of your game to win at this tournament, and I think his long irons and his approach game are going to get it done for him this week. He's not super long off the tee, but I think he'll do enough to put himself in good spots. And his short game's, I think, a little underrated. So I'm going to take my chances with Berger this week.
Yeah, I like that pick. I don't really take too many guys toward the top that often, but I'm still kind of considering adding him into the card this week as well.
You could really hammer this. You could hammer this region.
Yeah, I mean, all the reasons you mentioned, I think were fantastic. And on top of that, I like that when you talk about, kind of this West Coast swing, he's won here last year. He won at Pebble Beach, which is, in this West Coast, West Coast swing. So he is a Florida guy, but he's capable of winning out here. We've seen him play well out here. So I don't see any reason that he can't play well here. Like you said, I mean, he played well at the U.S. Open, and his irons have been so good. It's kind of so hard to discount him. He just feels like he's going to be in the mix because he's hitting the irons way too well not to be.
Yeah, and he's actually surprisingly inside the top 20 in strokes gained putting on POA over his last 50 rounds. So I like that as well. Like I said, the South Course will be POA. So Berger is on the card, and we move on. I mean, Hideki and Bryson, I think both could be live this week too. Bryson's obviously played well here and could shape up very well as long as he's not, sending balls out of bounds off the tee or playing out of the woods. I think he's going to have an advantage with his driver. But we'll see. I was hoping for maybe a little bit of better number if I was going to take Bryson. I think there are probably some 20s out there. He's 22 actually on DraftKings currently, so I wouldn't hate that play either.
Yeah, I think that Bryson has obviously, on a longer course, we've seen him at like winged foot just kind of overpower even these courses where you don't think it's possible on. So with his distance, I would never discount him at an event like this. But I think a couple things that scare me here is, like you said, you can get into some trouble here. So his accuracy, even if he's hitting it far, if he's putting himself in, bad spots, it's not necessarily gonna be easy to, bounce back
Get
from
up
that.
and down. Right.
And on top of that, his around the green game scares me as well. And I talked about that in the opening. They're smaller greens, they're tougher to hit. I don't necessarily love him scrambling around as well.
No, I wouldn't either. But I mean, he definitely could also get hot with the putter. He's been very, very good on POA as well. So I'm sure Bryson will be popular this week. But this is the next territory I think is going to be at the range where I think a winner might come from. Sam Burns at plus 2,400, Tony Finau at plus 2,900, along with Scotty Scheffler and Will Zalatoris. And Sung Jae Im is at 3,200, Jordan Spieth at 3,400, Brooks Koepka, Mark Leishman are at 36 and 3,700. And then Corey Connors and Patrick Reed round out guys under 50 to 1 on FanDuel at 4,600. Pretty tasty range here. Yeah. Lots of options. And I think between the guys we just talked about, 20 to 50, lots of good bets could be had here. And it's about making the right decisions, which is difficult when you have guys who you're used to taking and have trouble not taking. So I'll preface that because that could be a little foreshadowing, but I'll just get it out of the way early. I'm going to be taking Sam Burns this week. He's kind of turned into the guy that I can't stop taking. I probably won't stop. I mean, I think he's turned himself into one of the most well-rounded golfers on tour. He's still obviously extremely young, only 24, 25 years old, but the run he's been on has been pretty incredible. Obviously won his first event last year at the Valspar and then followed that up with a second at the Byron Nelson, had a 13th at the Travelers, second at the WGC, 8th at the BMW, then won again at the Sandersons, followed that up with a 14th at the Shriners, 5th at the CJ Cup, and 7th at the Houston Open. Now, I think there is maybe a little bit of criticism on Burns competing in, the tougher, bigger events, but we've seen him play well at Riviera, where it's a tough track, tough field. And I think he's kind of got what it takes now and won't be intimidated by anything. And in theory, this course should shape up very well for him as well. He's started to turn it around here. He's only played at the Farmers 4 times, started off with a missed cut in 2018 and backed it up with a 40th, a 49th, and 18th here last year, where he actually lost over 2 strokes approach, which I don't expect to be the case this week. So Burns, 24 to 1. I'm pretty happy with that number. I was expecting maybe a little bit higher into the 20s, but at this point, the books respect him. I think his win equity is actually pretty high, considering he really does do everything well. Good putter, good driver of the golf ball, pretty elite iron play. And when he needs to, he can get up and down. Obviously, he had that complete blow up at the Hero World Challenge with his 30-wood off the deck around the green. So please don't ever pull that move against Sam.
He'll use a wedge this week.
Yeah, just use a wedge. And other than that, I mean, there's really not a lot of reasons to not like Sam Burns. So I don't know how popular he'll be considering, all the names he's around, but I can't help but go back to my guy.
Yeah, I mean, he is your guy. I think he gave some pretty good reasoning. My I guess hesitation would be him and, some of these tougher events like you mentioned. But like you said, I mean, he's come a long way from where he was, a year ago when the criticism on him was, he was always in the mix on Sunday and he couldn't win. And now he's a 2-time PGA Tour winner. So obviously there's a lot of different, hills that people get over, and he's kind of continued to grow. So there's no reason to believe that he's not going to start winning some of these events. So I don't hate it.
So who are you going with in this range? I mean, plenty of options, like I said, I think.
Yeah. I think it's not going to be much of a surprise, but as long as we keep getting these numbers on him, I'm going to have to take Brooks Koepka. 36 to 1. I mean,
I'm there too.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to get some hate. But
so
it's just 36 to 1. He's a guy that obviously He can win any week. He played well here at the U.S. Open last year. Especially in these tough, grinded out events, that seems to be like when he plays his best. He can lock in with anyone as good as anyone, and save pars when he has to. And he's won 2 U.S. Opens. These are the kind of events that he excels at. So I think that he should be in the mix this week. Obviously, it's not a major. It's early in the year, but when you look at kind of the way the schedule lines up, it's 2 weeks later where he won last year at the Waste Management. He went off at like 40-1, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's not a major. He doesn't care." So I think these kind of big boy events where there's a lot of good players, he does get up more for. So I think he's going to start his season a little bit earlier this week, and I think that he's going to play well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he's just coming out the gates. He did play at the Tournament of Champions. He didn't play well, but he did play. And yeah, I agree. I think he'll definitely get up for this event. And in theory, this track should set up beautifully for him. And he did prove that at the U.S. Open last year. I think he finished 4th. He finished 4th last year at the U.S. Open here. Basically, you want to be driving it long and straight and have the ability to knock it close with your long irons, which is perfectly right up Brooks Koepka's alley. So they're going to be hanging 35, 36s out there on Brooks. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. It's too easy of a bet to make. I mean, it may not win, but I mean, I think there's plenty of win equity in that number. So there's no hate. There should be no hate on taking Brooks Koepka at 36-1 here.
No, and I think we proved it last year. Like, he won the Waste Management last year. I think it was 40 or 45-1 or something. And it just proves, like, even if he doesn't win this week, if he's going to fall to numbers like this, which is absolutely ridiculous, that given his resume that he goes off at 36, 40-1 at any event, he should never. But 100%. When he does, and you just take it every time, and people are like, "Oh my god!" People are taking like victory laps when he doesn't win. Like, "Oh, I didn't pick Brooks Koepka." Like, you are picking one guy at 40-1 that didn't win. Like, that was a great call. And then he wins at the Waste Management. And they all sit there and say, like, "Oh, that was so stupid. I should have taken him." I'm like, yeah, you take him every time because he's going to win more than one of like 40 times at this event. He's already paid himself off from last year at the Waste Management.
I mean, we use these examples often, but Scotty Scheffler and Tony Finau, perfect examples, both at 29-1, not nearly as good a number, and not nearly as proven of winners. I mean, not even close, obviously. That goes without saying. But, I mean, it's kind of laughable. I mean, I get it that Brooks sometimes doesn't always have the form going into things, but they're going to hang those numbers up. You got to take them. And
it's funny, too, because
you can see the narrative, like the majors narrative, like he only gets up for the majors. But, I mean, all you have to go is as far back as the Waste Management last year where he won. So,
and people say, yeah, he only gets up for the majors. He hasn't won a major since 2019, and then they turn around and pick Xander Schauffele. He hasn't won a PGA Tour event since that year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and he's at half the number.
Yeah, it's no sense. You have to take him at this number, and if he doesn't win this week and he plays bad and he's at around the same number for the Waste Management, I'm going to pick him again that week too.
You're going to bet a better.
I'm going to keep doing
it. Yeah, it's easy. So that obviously leads into my point that Scotty Scheffler and Tony Finau, I think they're both great players. In theory, I think they both could play well here. Both can be long off the tee. Both have long iron potential. Similar to Will Zalatoris, I think they all could play well this week. Don't love the numbers. Don't see the value in comparison to the guys we've mentioned. Sungjae, I'm pretty pissed at Sungjae. So past couple of weeks have just been killers. I mean, it would have been nice if you gave me some hope last week, and then maybe I would have considered it. But I guess I don't know. Yeah, not enough for me to get there with Sungjae. Spieth considered, but it's unless Spieth's absolutely on fire, dialed in with his irons, we know he can put on a short game show, but he's going to have to be relatively perfect to get that done. He doesn't have the advantages off the tee that some of these longer hitters do. So I don't like Spieth in that capacity, and I don't know. We'll see. Those numbers start to get interesting with Spieth too. I think once you get into the 40s and 50s with Spieth, those start to be almost auto plays. But are you taking anyone else in this, on sub 50 crew?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna do it, and then I saw the odds come out, and they didn't leave much of a choice. I had to take Patrick Reed. I stated on the show less than a week ago that I was concerned about Tim Reed. He didn't do too much to disprove that last week, but
it's
we're
almost
back on board.
concerning still.
Yeah, I mean the problem is he's been so good here that like they left me no option. Obviously he won last year at the Farmers Insurance. He was top 20 at the US Open, but then even before that he had a 6th tier, 13th. Like he's always in the mix. He plays this course well. We talk about this frequently where he plays these longer courses well, even though he's not a long hitter. And I think the reason is because he is so good like around the green that in these events where like it's hard to hit greens, it almost gives him an advantage because he's better scrambling than a majority of the field,
Right.
if not all the field. So we saw him kind of win that way last year, and I just think he wins like a lot of these big boy events, especially the tougher ones where you kind of have to grind it out. This is the type of event that I like him, and it's kind of the same reasoning as Brooks Koepka, where he wins too often to not take him at 46, 50 to 1 in an event like this because he wins every year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I even thought about Patrick Reed this week, which I typically don't. I'm probably going to add him to a top 20 card. There's not a lot of placement markets available to us yet, but I'm pretty sure he'll end up on my top 20 card, just judging off the value that we're seeing on the outright card. I mean, 46 is a pretty good number for Patrick Reed, regardless of his current form. We've seen that he can pull off victories in plenty of fashions, and he does like to do it at courses where you do have to work your ass off to get birdies. And it's more about making par more of the time than not, and he gets up and down with the best of them. So I like that. Before we get into the 50s, I want to bring Boss in, see any thoughts that he had at the top of the board. Any contrarian thoughts, Boss?
I don't know if I would say contrarian, but I think I mean, per usual, you guys touched on a lot of good things. I think contrary to last week where you could just bet the long shots and fill up the card that way, I think this week you need to really fill up on the portion of the board that we've gone through already, specifically that second tier that you guys just did. I think that's where the bulk of the cards should be constructed this week, and that's what I'm going to do alongside you guys. I'm going to take Sam Burns with you there, Owen. I like everything you said about him. I'm hoping I can get a little better number or a number closer to what the 24 that FanDuel has is not what I'm looking at right now, but that's an issue I can deal with.
South Carolina problems.
It's a South Carolina problem. We won't go any further than that. Thought about DJ Matt. I'm just not sure if I'm going to get there with some other guys that I'm interested in. I will hop on Brooks though. I think the Brooks, how you laid it out is perfect. I mean, Brooks wins these events that the big boys show up to on a big boy golf course. And if you're going to give us a number like that, then my hands are tied. I have to put it on there.
Sign me up.
So I want to get Zalatoris involved, but this number for his first win in this field feels like a big leap to get there. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. In theory, I think this is actually a good setup for him too. And we mentioned it last week that Birdie Fest might not be his type of thing, and then he makes a ton of birdies last week. So he's coming in playing really well, and I think in theory his wins and his competitive play has come at some of these bigger events where it is harder to score. So I don't hate it, but I was hoping for something in the 40s.
I feel like we got screwed because he played so well last week. If he missed the cut last week, we probably would all potentially be on Zalatoris this week.
Even if he just made it and finished 30th, like just a middling, made the cut, didn't really ever sniff the lead. But he had that one day, what did he go 10 under or something crazy like that?
I made 7 straight birdies.
Saturday or something that he played really well.
Yeah.
That right there will catch the eyes of the old bookmakers and get you a nice slash number. So
especially a likable guy like that.
Exactly. They know they're going to get the people on him anyway. One more guy in this range though that I like that I knew you guys wouldn't touch on because you never do is my guy Mark Leishman.
That's kind of what I meant by the contrarian tee.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's contrarian to you guys, maybe, but
contrary to what we say. Yeah,
exactly. Contrarian to you guys, I think a lot of people are going to be on Mark Leishman. I mean, he's a horse for the course kind of guy. He's won here before. His form is good enough. He's not lighting the world on fire, but his game is right there and it fits the course. So I'm going to take a piece of my guy Mark Leishman on the card this week.
Yeah, and every time you say that, after I don't touch on him, I go back and look at my model, and he's 9th. So he is in the top 10 on my model. Seems like he does everything perfectly here. Obviously, as a former champion. He's a good short game player. Has played well here. Gains more strokes on par 5s than you would think. Pretty good POA putter.
Very good
with his irons. Very well-rounded player. So I don't hate it. It's just weird to me to see him next to Brooks Koepka, I guess.
Can play in the wind if the weather starts to kick up on the coast there. So
yeah, well, considering I'm going to play a Reed top 20, I may start to be a little bit smarter with my top 20 cards and add guys a little bit worse odds.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, no, well, it's also interesting. I mean, last week, my highest valued top 20 plays were the ones, I mean, Putnam cashed at plus 490 and Varner should have cashed at plus 450. All the ones above that did not hit.
Yeah.
Granted, they were not sure things by any means. My surest bet was Ricky Fowler, and don't do that. Let's just say that. And do not look at Ricky Fowler this week.
No, we're not even close to his portion of the odds board yet.
All right, so Burns, Brooks, and Leishman for Boss, and some love for Zalatoris, but tough to get there. So makes sense. And we'll get into the upper mid range here, 50s. Get to 100s relatively quickly on FanDuel, but in the mid 50s we have Taylor Gooch, Max Homa, who is at 55 on FanDuel currently, but still at 70 on DraftKings and opens at like 80. So there are probably some better numbers on Max Homa available. Siwoo Kim at 55, Ryan Palmer at 55 as well. And then Keegan Bradley, Justin Rose, Matthew Wolf are at 65. And then in the 70s, we have Maverick McNeely, Christian Bezainhout, Seabez did not quite get it done for Matt last week. And then Lonzo Griffin, Billy Horschel, Mackenzie Hughes, and Joaquin Newman. And then we'll get into the 80s and 90s in a bit. But Matt, I'll let you open up the floor in the mid 50s. I mean, I guess we'll just get it out of the way. We're taking Max Homa.
Yeah, we're taking Max Homa. Yeah.
And we're getting a better number than 55 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what did you say? 70 was on DraftKings.
Yeah.
I stupidly missed the 80 earlier, but 70 still, I think, is a great number in this field. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I said this fairly often, but I don't really understand why he never gets any respect on the odds list.
Zero.
No, he wins like a decent amount. I mean, it's not like he's an elite player, but he has 3 wins in the last 3 years.
That's he's got a better chance than Ryan Palmer to win.
Yeah, why is he going off at 70-1? You talk about West Coast. He plays really well on the West Coast, these tougher events. He won at Riviera last year. And his first one was at Quail Hollow. Those are 2 tougher tracks too. So I don't really understand why Max Homa just gets no love ever. But for me, when he's at this number, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no-brainer. And, because he did play well last year, we saw him at the Century Tournament Champions. So similar to Brooks, he's not coming in super rusty. He didn't play great there, finished 15th, middle of the pack, putted well, didn't really do much off the tee or an approach, but I think he can kind of flip that pretty quickly. He's done it in the past. And we've seen him compete at these tougher courses in tougher fields with no fear, and we're still getting these good numbers on him. So
yeah, and he's played well here too. He was a top
18th and a 9th
last year, and then top 10 the year before.
Yep. So that's enough for me at the number that he's going off at. You get him at a 70 or 80. I think it's a perfect bet. Love Max Homa. He's been good to us, and I don't understand his value in terms of the odds list either. I mean, and he'll be on my top 20 card as well. So
yeah, me too. It's so weird too, because this is one that really never makes sense to me, because he's a likable guy too. I mean, I guess some people that we've make a point not to like him, but
overall he's likable.
Yeah, I feel for the general fan, he's always cracking jokes on Twitter. A lot more people probably like him than dislike him. So it's odd that he's never getting respected on the odds list, because I feel like he's a guy that people would want to take.
But we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it all day. Take that to the bank. Max Homa, top 20, and nice value on an outright. I'm going to Taylor Gooch in this range at 55-1. I think that's a pretty good number. Similar to Sam Burns, I think he's starting to come into his own. Very well-rounded player. Obviously, we've seen him play well recently. Won at the RSM back in November. Didn't play well at the Amex last week, missed the cut. Hasn't played his best golf to open up 2022, 15th of the Century and 27th at the Sony. But I think I like the fact that he's been playing good. I think he's been playing golf and coming off of a hot season where he also had 4 top 11s in his last 6 starts prior to his win at the RSM. And he just does everything well above average, similar to Sam Burns. So I like Gooch this week. I think it's actually pretty good value. He's one of the best iron players in the world right now, 4th in strokes gained approach over his last 24 rounds. He's takes care of the par 5s, 7th in strokes gained on par 5s in his last 24 rounds. Good POA putter, 23rd over his last 50 rounds on POA. And he's not overly long with his driver, but he's very consistent, gaining strokes off the tee very consistently. So Taylor Gooch thinks pretty good value at the 55 number. And I think similar to Burns, there are big things to come with this kid. So I like it.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I feel like, obviously he underperformed last week, but he was at like a very high number. And I feel like a lot of people liked him. And a lot of people have been liking him before. And now it just seems like a lot of people have just got off because he had one bad week. But
right.
I feel like that's pretty good value.
Well, he also finished 3rd here, 2019. He's made the cut in all 4 appearances here. So I think there's something to be said about that. Definitely familiar with the course. So Taylor Gooch, I don't think will be super popular this week. Could have seen maybe a little bit better of a number, but he's been so good and consistent over the past 6 months. I think this is kind of where we're going to find him. And if he plays better, his number is going to get worse, similar to Burns. So
yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad number at all.
So those are my plays above 50, and I surprisingly am trying to withstand taking any deep outrights this week because I really do think that it's going to come in that mid-range that we just went through.
Wow.
So I'll let you – do you have anyone else you're picking between, I guess, 50 and 80?
Yeah, I have one more guy, and I mean I've just –
Another friends and family bet?
Yeah, confession. I mean, I've just been like – since the Tournament of Champions, since the new year hit, I've just been ready to go to take Neiman, and he hasn't played yet, so I have to do it this week. I can't avoid it any longer. 75-1. I don't mind taking a shot for, a little bit on him down there. He's long off the tee. I think that he's going to be fine in terms of driving distance and putting himself in decent position. The around the green game, leaves a little bit to be desired. When you talk about kind of scrambling around and saving pars and stuff like that. But I do think that like the upside is there in terms of he's long enough, and if his irons are like dialed in, I think that he has the talent to kind of hang in there and compete. The other thing I like about him is he actually tends to play really well to like start the year. So I'm not super concerned about time off. Last year to start the year after the break, he had a second where he lost in a playoff to Harris English at the Tournament of Champions. Then he finished second right after that at the Sony Open. So he kind of comes out of the gates hot. So first event here, 75-1. I cannot resist. I'm going to have to put a little bit on Joaquin Newman.
I don't hate it. I definitely thought about it too, and it could be a late ad, but it does kind of seem like potentially throwing money away because we haven't seen it. But I mean, he's young and he's got his ceiling is super high. I mean, like you said, he's long off the tee, can get very hot with his irons. The short game obviously is the worrisome part, and competing in these deeper fields, we haven't seen him, take one home yet, but I think he'll be right. He could be right there. So I don't hate that at all. I think similar to Matthew Wolff. Matthew Wolff, another guy we just talked about with Kirshner last week. People are betting him at 30-1, and it's like, just wait. Like, he'll be in the 70s very soon. And here we go. Next play good, and he's at 70. So, I think Matt Wolff could be a popular pick too, just because their upside is so high.
Yeah, this is actually the week where I would think I would say it's not a bad play. Right. Based on what we saw last week, obviously he looked terrible, and I am not going to take him this week, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But if you were to take him, I think that it's definitely not a bad play because, like you said, he's so volatile and the upside is so high. And he actually, he was second at the U.S. Open 2 years ago when Bryson won on a really long track like that. So he can kind of play well on these tougher courses. But
and I could see Siwoo Kim, Maverick McNeely, hometown kid, being popular this week. I don't know. Maverick, I've taken him before. He actually really, really models very well for me. He could end up in my top 20 card. Does everything you need to do well here, and he's also a very good POA putter. He's been taking care of par fives.
Save him for Pebble.
What's up?
Save him for Pebble.
Save him for Pebble.
Well, you can take a top 20 here too, but I think
I know.
Pebble's a spot outright for him.
His number will go down for next week.
Yeah.
But I mean, in reality, it really shouldn't go down that much. Like he shouldn't be in the 40s.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird. Like, I like him. I think he's got a good game, but I feel like he's almost like getting a little bit overrated at this point.
I mean, yeah, I would say so, but I don't know. Yeah, he's been pretty consistent. He was very consistent to close out last year, and I guess he played okay at the Sony Open. But you know what? He's going to be in my top 20 card. He's been very.
I would say, yeah, I like him for more of a placement than a win. But like,
yeah,
I would say this: when you're watching, have you ever thought like Maverick's going to win this?
Not recently. No, I mean, but he's been around. I mean, he did finish second at the Fortinet, which he probably could have won. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not there with Maverick this week. I'm sure plenty of people will be. That's, Lonto Griffin at 75 makes no sense. I mean, I know he played well at the end of last week, but you can't take him here at 75-1 when he should be probably over 100. That's going to be my only Lonto talk of the day, although he has had 3 top 10s in his last 5 appearances overall and did come in 7th last year and 12th in 2018. So I guess there is some merit to his number this week. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm more into my top 20 plays for the rest of this card. So we're above 75-1. Tom Hoagie is at 80. Francesco Molinari, both played well last week, both at 80-1. Cameron Davis, Jason Day, Ricky Fowler, Luke List, Aaron Wise, all at 90. And then we're 100 and above with Keith Mitchell, first name on that list. So it could be a little foreshadowing there as well. But are you taking anyone? Are you done with your outright card at this point?
I'm done with my outright card at this point, okay. Yeah.
All right, good. I'm going to go back to Luke List, not for an outright. I'm take him for a top 20. He finished a stroke off the top 20 last week at the Amex, continues to play well. He actually modeled out really well for me this week, much higher than he typically does, but he's a long hitter, been very good off the tee, good with his long irons, proximity over 175. He does well on the par 5s. Anything you could look for in a given week for Luke List, it's going to come here. He finished 10th here last year, 12th in 2018, 4 consecutive made cuts. So he will be on my top 20 card and maybe a potential first-round leader play as well. So Luke List is my, I guess, first top 20 down here.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think he's actually a pretty good fit here. It actually brings me to a decent point. You talked about the first-round leader. I haven't seen the odds come out yet. Do you think they're going to be like north and south exclusive?
Yeah, they probably will be because there's a huge discrepancy in terms of the courses. So it'll be, I mean, it won't be as bad as last week. Obviously there were 3 horses. So, but yeah, the numbers will be slashed depending on the draw you get. So we'll see what we get on Luke List, but hopefully something decent.
Yeah. I like that pick there for top 20. I was considering Cameron Davis down here. I'll have to see what the number is. I think he's got, I like his game, but we'll have to see what the number is. He played decently at the Sony. I took him for a top 10, and he played well for 3 days and didn't do anything on Sunday. Killed me, but it wasn't, I would say, bad for him. So I could be talked into it this week.
I'm also, now that I'm just going to start listing top 20 plays, please stop me eventually. But Tom Hoagie, I'm going to ride the hot hand.
You're going to?
Yeah, I'm going to ride the hot hand. He's been really good, dude. I mean, he's second in strokes gained approach over his last 24 rounds, only second to Daniel Berger. His proximity from 175 to 200, he's first over his last 24 rounds in this field. Gains a ton of strokes on the par 5s. Decent POA putter. His short game's not particularly great, but I mean, if he's as locked in with his irons as he has been, I think he'll continue to play well. And he's been kind of a boomer bust guy at this event in particular. In 5 appearances, he has 3 missed cuts and a 5th and a 12th. So judging on his current form, I think he'll come in feeling good this week to a course that he has had success at, albeit somewhat random success considering he's got some missed cuts scattered in there. But I think the value in the top 20 for Tom Hoagie will be pretty good. So
wow.
Trying to not get too far down the odds list before taking some top 20s and I think he'll finish in the top 20 this week. So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't have
probably be a safer top 30 play considering how many top 20s get I break my heart on when they finish one stroke off. But
yeah, the top 20s are getting frustrating. Missing by like 1 or 2 shots for sure. I can attest to that. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly a pick that I didn't expect you to have this week, but I wish you the best on it for sure.
I mean, another pick you probably wouldn't expect me to have this week, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Jason Day, top 20.
Wow. You've been listening to too much Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but he showed me a little bit last week. He didn't really finish strong, and he ended up finishing 49th, which with a kind of a disappointing Sunday. But this is one of his go-to events. Obviously, he's won here twice as a runner-up, a 5th, a 9th, and a 16th. He did miss the cut here last year, but you only have to go back to 2020 where he finished 16th, 2019 5th, and then won back in 2018. So I think Jason Day, maybe a little resurgence tour. I'm sure Spencer's hoping for it. But I think if the top 20 number is good, I'm going to take him for top 20 as well. I like kind of hammering this section for top 20s. I think there's going to be some good value there. So Jason Day, this is his track. Let's get it done.
Well, actually, I don't hate that. He plays well here. I could actually see him being in the mix and competing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see a top 20. So, yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, not a surprise. I think I'm going to have to go back to my guy, Keith Mitchell, but
this really is the friends and family card for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's playing well right now. He
is.
Last time at the Sony Open, so if it's not broken, don't fix it. We talk about driving distance. I will say again, Keith Mitchell, former FedEx Air Player of the Month last year. So I mean,
we've talked about that. We've mentioned that like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I mentioned it every time. Yeah,
but he's actually surprisingly he's like 27th in driving distance over his last 24 rounds. But that could honestly just be based on the courses he's played over those 24 rounds. Might not need to be hitting driver on all of them, whatever the case may be. So. He's definitely one of the longer hitters.
Yeah, no, I would also say actually like Keith Mitchell is just playing good now. Like when I first started taking him, he was kind of in like a bit of a lull, but he's starting to play pretty well. So I'm gonna keep taking him because I actually think Keith Mitchell's gonna have a very good year this year.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that he's gonna be necessarily in the mix to win this one, but I expect him to continue what he's doing, and I think he's gonna have a decent number for a top 20, especially in the strong field. So I'm going to go back to him because he's been working out for me so far.
Yeah, I mean, 12th and 7th in his last 2 appearances. And I guess he's not played particularly well here, but in theory, he should play better than his missed cuts that he's been having. So I don't hate that. I may look into him for a first-time leader to jump on the Killer Keith bandwagon a little bit.
All he needed was the visor to turn his game around. He started wearing the visor, and he's like a new man.
Yeah. I think I have one more top 20 play. Of course, now that I say that, I see another name that I do like as well. But do you have anyone over 100 to 1 besides Keith Mitchell that you're also going to be taking in that placement market?
Oh, it's tough.
See, you have much better with strain once you get to the top 20s than I do. That's why my card always looks very lopsided.
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier to have restraint when you've been losing. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to hold back when they're not working out each week.
That's a good point. All right, well, I guess I'll get to my last top 20 play. A very boomer bust type player, Patrick Rogers. He's at 100 to 1 on FanDuel right now, which is kind of surprising. But similar to a given week for Patrick Rogers, you just look at his last 10 appearances. He has 3 top 6s scattered with 3 missed cuts, a 57th, a 40th. So you're kind of not exactly sure what you're going to get with Patrick Rogers in a given week. But with it being on POA and him having a 9th place finish in 2020 and a 4th place finish in 2017, and there's plenty of value on a top 20 for Patrick Rogers this week. And I mean, if you're feeling frisky, a first round leader bet or an outright play if you're feeling really frisky, but I wouldn't really consider taking that. Although I think he should be better than 100 to 1. Yeah, he's 150 on DraftKings, so there's definitely some discrepancy there with that. But yeah, Patrick Rogers will be my long shot top 20 of the week, and I like it.
Okay, I don't hate that. I had another. I don't even know if I mentioned him, but I had a top 20 earlier in the list. I think I just got too caught up with the outrights, didn't touch on him. But I'm going to take Ryan Palmer for a top 20.
Oh, you are? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I kind of shattered him a little bit in there just because.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to win, but I don't think he has the outright equity. I think you made a pretty fair point, but he has played well here. He's had a couple of second place finishes in like the last 5 years. So I could easily see him coming inside that top 20. I mean, his odds are kind of shitty, so I don't know if that number is going to be like that great, but like you said, you need to start getting a little safer on these top 20s because the longer ones are turning into L's, and we need to turn the season around here. So
We need to turn 2022 around this week.
The buck stops here.
The buck stops here. It's also been a pretty horrific start to my one and done season. I'm currently in 3,675th in the Mayo Cup, which is definitely in pretty close to last. So much closer to last than I am even to halfway in the mix. So gonna need to turn that around. And I'm pretty torn on who to use this week. I'm gonna try to stick to the formula of using guys inside the top 10 on the outright list. So I'm kind of torn between using Xander this week. I know I don't like his value on the outright market, but I am definitely considering him for my one and done play. So we'll bring Boss back in here too, see what he's thinking for one and done. But Matt, what do you got?
I'm torn too. I'm hanging in there on one and done. I'm in like 1,300 something. So, just kind of meddling around right now, waiting to make my move. Granted, it's 2 weeks in, so a lot of time left. I am debating using John Rahm just because he's played so well here. It's hard to imagine him not playing well, but you kind of it feels like you can use him in any major and he can come like top 10.
It feels like you can use him like any week.
Yeah, so my other option would potentially be like a Tony Finau, who always plays well here. I don't think he's necessarily going to win, but it's just another guy who's I could see like top 10ing and keeping it in the mix, and it's a guy that I'm not dying to use moving forward. So some decisions been made, but I would say probably one of those two guys. Maybe now that I'm talking about a Finau more now.
Okay, Boss.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Finau, kind of for that same strategy. I mean, he's a horse for the course, so he's got the history here. His form's, not lighting the world on fire, but he's playing good golf. He's making cuts, and on a course that he likes, I can see that elevating up towards, top 10 finish or whatnot. So I think I'm going to go Tony Finau. I don't really have him penciled in anywhere or dying to use him anywhere, so I think it's a good spot to go with Finau. Also considered Hideki. I mean, obviously coming off a win 2-3 weeks ago, playing good golf. I mean, he's played well here, so that was another thought of mine. But I think I'm going to lean towards Finau.
Okay. All right. So you guys have been pretty lockstep in your one and done thoughts, which has worked out way better for you than me recently. So,
well, only marginally better.
So. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, we're nowhere near the money right now. So
no. I think all three of us combined are still nowhere near the money. So that's
correct. Yeah. I mean, I've only made $27,000. So
yeah, I'm not far ahead of you. I made a miscut last week. Shout out Taylor Gooch.
So just to recap, I'm taking Daniel Berger outright, 2,100. I guess I'll probably try to see if I can get a better number there. But Burns, Brooks, Taylor Gooch, and then Max Homa. I'm going to take a top 10 on Burns, and then top 20. Already need to make some changes here because I already have 8 guys written down, which is I wanted like 4, now I have 8. So
you were so confident going in that this was going to be the week you reeled the top 20s in too.
I know, so I think I will. I'll reel them in. So
okay. Maybe take off Hoagie,
Leishman, Reed, McNeely, Homa, List, Day, Hoagie, and Rogers. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Hoagie or Rogers would probably have to be the late cuts if there are, but we'll see. It might. Depending on the Reed and Leishman value, I may not even want to take them for top 20s.
I was going to say, those guys probably are their value is probably not good. So,
well, we'll see.
All right, I'm going to go DJ. Still probably going to get there on Berger, but my card's feeling kind of big now. Koepka, Patrick Reed, Homa, and got to take Neiman down there at 75-1. And then top 20, Reed, Palmer, Homa, Keith Mitchell. I'll probably have to throw Neiman in there and potentially add one more. I don't know. I gotta look at it once the numbers come out. See, maybe Cam Davis, but I gotta see what the numbers come to. So
right. No, there could be some good numbers out there for top 20s. So and then Boss is gonna be taking Sam Burns, Brooks, and Mark Leishman.
Also going to be on the Max Homa train. Can't miss West Coast Max.
Okay.
There we go. I like that.
All right. Time to turn around the 2022 season. We're in the middle of the California swing. This is a beautiful time to do it. Torrey Pines, Farmers Insurance. Let's get some winners, and we'll talk to y'all next week.